Okay, folks, this is actually a introduction I'm recording to put in front of the real video. Now, last night I recorded like a 25-minute video just because I thought that I had a better understanding as to why Sistas season 7 and well 8 now just seem to be failing with the fans. And, everybody wants to point to the writers, but my initial thought, because I just sat down and thought about it was, well, maybe it's the fact that the writers aren't really accustomed to working in a Tyler Perry studio environment where they are experienced writers, but they aren't used to being put on the timetable of Tyler Perry where they have to write an entire season of scripts within like 1 or 2 weeks or less. And then from there, it's filmed in like 10 days or less. So maybe that's why the show really isn't hitting like it used to when Tyler was doing it, because that's the schedule he's used to, and he put it on a bunch of people who aren't accustomed to that. So the end result doesn't really measure up. So my entire video was about that. 5 minutes later, I saw that DeVal did an interview on a channel called Poor Minds, and I was going to use a clip, but I didn't want to run the risk of like copyright or anything. But they do have a sizable following, over 230,000 subscribers here on YouTube. I'm going to leave a link to the actual interview in the comment section below. You know how I do. I'll leave a comment and then I'll pin it to the top. There's a link right there. What I want you to do, go to the 1 hour, 46-minute mark. 1 hour, 46-minute mark. Between that and about 1 hour, 55 minutes, so a little less than 10 minutes, DeVal voices his thoughts on the scripts that, are presented to, him and the other cast members. His reaction, which is a mirror of what we always talk about in terms of, why would my character say that? Why am I regressing? I think, and then he talks about how he actually spoke with Tyler himself, going on like a 45-minute, just filibuster about all the things he feels like the character should do in order to relate to this generation and this, that, and the third. And then when he like stopped talking, Tyler was like, "Are you done?" And then he pretty much speaks about the whole audience thing, and DeVal's like, "Yeah, I ain't saying nothing else after that. I mean, the man, he didn't make $3 billion for nothing." So let me put it this way. I encourage you, go over to the Poor Minds interview with DeVal Ellis. Watch those 10 minutes I told you about, from the 1 hour, 46-minute mark to the 1 hour, 55-minute mark. And then come back to this. Well, actually, you don't have to come back to this video. Go. Just basically, it gave me a new perspective. I feel like me and DeVal talked about this when we did our interview last year, but I just think that I understand what he said. I feel like if I had the ability to like talk with Tyler Perry and then give my thoughts, because heck, I always give my thoughts on his channel, and then he'd be like, "Are you done?" Like Kevin Hart, "Are you done? Are you done? Are you done?" And then he'll explain, boom, this is how I made. And I'm like, the end result, you cannot argue with that. And how many times have I said on this channel before, well, he's the billionaire and I'm not. So obviously he has a method that works for him. But in terms of being a fan, I do have some rebuttals to the whole thing about the show being like a soap opera and whatnot, considering that, one, soap operas are 5 days a week typically versus 1 day a week. Number two, we know he is capable of writing good soap operas, aka the nighttime soap, the haves and the have-nots, during the first several seasons. But I think that when you look at the numbers, that's one thing, versus the critiques, it doesn't really measure up. I think that's always been my most frustrating thing about Tyler Perry in the most recent years, like the Viacom era and the last couple seasons of the haves and have-nots. Is like his work prior to that was good quality work. That's why it's frustrating, because as someone who's been in the Tyler Perry fandom for quite some time, I saw the rise and the eventual fall, where it's basically cookie cutter. You're putting out anything to put it out, but you're making money. So it's kind of like the Michael Jackson argument where people talk about how, oh, well, after Thriller, yeah, it's the greatest selling album ever, but he forgot about his roots and he put out a bunch of different, like, a rock song and then a song with a white guy, Paul McCartney, to cater to different audiences in order to cross over. And then after that, he put out albums just to kind of, hit records and, make sales. But at the end of the day, that's what it's really about. So I will say this much. Everything that I'm about to say in the remainder of the video is what I thought prior to listening to what DeVal said. So I will say this much. Highly doubt this will ever get to Tyler Perry or any of the writers or whatnot, but I understand better now. That does not mean I still won't give honest critiques when I do my content, but I understand better now. That's the reason I'm doing this introduction. So for the next 25 minutes, you'll hear me talk about how I don't know about this and the writers that and yada, yada, yada. But, it's a 25-minute video and I did not want to delete it because it was 25 minutes of my life. So feel free to enjoy it. Also, check out the entire Poor Minds interview. I know it's like 2 hours and 15 minutes, but it's great. Yes, if you've looked at a bunch of dead-ass podcasts, discussions between DeVal and his wife, or when he and Kadeen were on like the Breakfast Club and whatnot, you know a majority about their history, how they met and this, that, and the third. But the thing is, the energy DeVal has with the two ladies running the podcast, it is worth the price of admission. I will say that much. So watch the entire podcast, but if you want to go directly to the portion I was telling you about in regards to the Tyler Perry stuff, 1 hour, 46-minute mark. Okay, that's all I got. So enjoy the rest of the video while I talk from my pre-perspective of Tyler Perry writing. So with that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe. I know I mentioned that again later in the video, and I will catch you in the next one. So let's listen to what I thought before listening to the interview. Okay, well, I wanted to do a video. I've been reading the comments very thoroughly. Some people have been leaving full-on dissertations, and I read those. I mean, even the ones that strongly disagree with me, cursing me out. Well, cursing me out in such a way that the YouTube doesn't erase their comment from view. But yeah, it's just that season 8 is quite the spectacle. I know we're only 5 episodes in. We're 5 episodes into a 22 episode season. However, there has been a lot of disappointment. I feel like I speak from the majority, the handful of us who still watch week to week, that after what went down in season 7, the disappointment of the feeling we once had of being excited, like, yo, new writers, is a whole team, oh, Sistas about to cook. And then we got the final product, and I don't know, it just seemed like the final product was either in the oven for too long or just not long enough. And I think that Sistas is definitely a victim of its own success. And let me take that back. It's a victim of factory line creation. And instead of, taking time to let this show, the number one show, man, it's hard for me to even say these words. It really is, because I'm just thinking, and look, I do have notes in front of me. This isn't like a freestyle video. I literally have bullet points here of the points I wanted to say, but it's one thing to think something. It's another to talk about talk about it with other fans. Another to write it down, but for me to actually get behind this mic and say it, it's just something completely different. But I just think about how The Best Man, the final chapter, somebody liked a tweet that I made a long time ago. Actually, let me go back and see, 'cause I just got the notification after I woke up from a nap. And I made this tweet, I want to say right after I finished watching those episodes. This was from January 3rd, 2023. Almost 2 years ago, because in just a few weeks it's going to be 2025. But yeah, I said, The Best Man, the final chapters prove that quality is better than quantity. 8 episodes of well-written content is better than 100 episodes of mediocre and rushed writing. And I had a gif of Terry Crews. I think, what's it? Brooklyn Nine something. Basically, the gif was I said what I said, and it got a decent amount of traction. Some people were like, it didn't drag. It got to the point. They were able to wrap up storylines, and the storylines were cohesive. Because guess what? It was 8 episodes based off of 2 films. 2 films. And I mean, you based off of how long each film was, you could argue that's about like, 3 to 4, maybe 5 episodes of like, any given show. But a lot of everybody said the same thing. Truthful shade. I agree. I highly agree. And I said Shelby came across like Karen within the first couple episodes, but they resolved that quick, fast, and in a hurry. I loved it. But here's the point I want to make. Would it kill Tyler Perry Studios just to give Sistas a little bit more time? Look, that can go for any of the shows, but I just want to specifically speak Sistas. Can it just get maybe a couple more weeks? I mean, what's the hurry? I get it. It's the assembly line production of how things are done. But I just can't get over the fact that we're watching the #1 show that used to be a fan favorite. Now people, the few of us who actively watch week to week, it's just, we dread doing it because we just wonder how they're going to F up the characters, this time around. I don't know. But I don't see why it's such a bad thing to spend more time working on the show. I mean, if you want to do the thing where you film in like 9 days, why not 2 weeks? Okay. Like, just take 14 to 16 days just to film. You don't have to rush everything, because some of these scenes, I'm just wondering, why are they performed the way they're performed? And this isn't the fault of the actors. It's the fact that there are some scenes that are supposed to be emotional, and from some aspects it works, in other aspects it doesn't, because sometimes I'm watching what's supposed to be a serious scene and I'm cringing because of one or two reasons, because the way it's acted comes seemingly out of nowhere and isn't really consistent with like the next scene that the character's shown in, or B, the scene itself doesn't really do a good job of fitting the tone of the episode. Or more specifically, let's say, for example, Andy's breakdown in episode 5. Some people said it was as cringe as, when she fake screamed when she saw Gary, or at the beginning of the episode in the hospital where she fake screamed at Hudson like, I'm going there to see my fiance, and she looked around just to see if anybody, caught what she was saying, to make it seem like she's making a show about not seeing her man. I don't know. The breakdown itself, it wasn't anything new, because any Sistas fan could tell you Andy had at least half a dozen breakdowns in season 1. Specifically, when Jasmine would come to her office to give updates on things going on with her relationship with Gary. And every time Jasmine came in with something new, Andy knew it was the result of a conversation that she had with Gary earlier that same day. Oh, I'm not accepting this ring. Oh, you really are leaving your wife for me. And then she would go to the bathroom and just break down or call Karen or whatever. That's basically nothing new. Like, her breaking down in the penthouse, because a lot of people are saying the same thing. If Andy really is over Gary, why is she even still in the penthouse? I mean, I ain't gonna lie. The way the housing market is now, I'd stay. I don't care. I mean, hey, it's in my name. Whoop-de-doo. But it does make sense. I get it. But I do think that just a little bit more time is what the show needs. I mean, I think it's just embarrassing, though, that you have half a dozen writers, some of which I've seen their work and they're really good and they're experienced. But for whatever reason, they're coming up with scripts like this. But then I thought about it, because I thought these writers can't be that bad. I'm like, okay, Tyler Perry writes these shows. What I know he's been preaching this for a long time. He'll take a full season of a show and write the scripts within less than 2 weeks. Like, he'll go to a cabin, one of his mini properties, or an island or something, and just write out the script for Sistas, or the Haves and the Have-Nots, or the Oval, or whatever show he's working on at the time. Then he'll go back to Atlanta and then have it, filmed within 10 days or less. That's basically, how things are running, because keep in mind the current season of Sisters was filmed in 9 days. I believe Novi said that during a behind the scenes look at season 8. So more often than not, I think the main issue isn't necessarily the acting, it's the scripts. I don't see why instead of 2 weeks, why don't you spend 4 weeks? Double it up. Spend 4 weeks, because if you want to rush to get a script done, if you want to rush to get, 22 episodes done in 2 weeks, okay. But just like in English class, I mean, how many of us took, English? Well, I mean, every year in like school, obviously. But I remember one of the analogies or the diagrams that one of my English teachers used to use in elementary was like a hamburger. It's like, you got the introduction and conclusion were the buns, and then everything else in the middle was like, the burger, the lettuce, and the condiments. Things like, after the introduction, you have basically the lettuce, which is like the first phase of the paper. Like, okay, we got the introduction now, so let me just guide you layer by layer into the depths of this story I'm telling, with the burger meat, of course, being like the meat, like the strong portion of the essay that compels you to finish up, because it's like, oh, okay, I see why you went through the first levels to get to this point. And I just feel like, would it kill to actually do that now? I mean, here's the thing though, Tyler Perry did his thing, for better or worse. Not the show, but the series itself. We had 6 seasons that did very well ratings wise. And I think one of the main reasons that the writers currently are flopping in terms of the quality of the writing, seemingly not being able to tell who these characters are. I mean, it's almost like they were given just a couple of, well, I mean, let's be real here. If you look at the first 6 seasons Tyler wrote, you could easily describe these characters within a 2 to 3 bullet points, because most of them have not changed that much at all since the beginning of the series. But for fans who have watched the show all the way through, it's like these writers don't have a grasp of who these characters are, and the fans are taking note, and I'm pretty sure the actors are as well. One of the biggest points of contention that fans are noticing is that, man, you could tell the show really ain't hitting, because the actors aren't even promoting it like they used to. So I think that these new writers, they aren't accustomed to working in a fast-paced environment like Tyler Perry Studios. So while the 2 weeks of writing and 12 or less days of filming that Tyler Perry is used to, these new people aren't. So I think, well, honestly, like I said, the filming isn't necessarily the biggest issue, but sometimes there are moments where I'm like, yeah, maybe they should have taken a different take, or should have gotten a second take to put in the final product. It's just that the writing isn't solid enough. And I feel like more often than not, the actors have to ad-lib, because Tyler, well, not technically not his fault, but in season 7 and 8, but in previous seasons, it's like he'll give them a skeleton of a script and then allow them to, freestyle ad-lib in order to add more depth to it. But I think that maybe Tyler should allow these new writers to have a bit more time to let things work, because even though they have a head writer this season, Jamie Giddens, it just seems like this season is a bit too slow and safe. What I mean by that is, it's not taking the risk that season 7 did. And like I've said numerous times over the past couple weeks, I think season 7 is better than season 8, due to the fact that the first half at least felt like they were setting up a lot of different things, but for whatever reason, it just crashed and burned in the back half of the season. Now, obviously, it seems we're all in agreement that the main reason Sisters began to tank ratings-wise was fan reaction to the news of Zach being the father of one of Karen's babies. Okay? We can agree on that. But in terms of the setups that were going down in the first half, I honestly could not tell you what happened in season 7B. I don't know what went wrong on the drawing boards or whatnot, but everything just fell apart. Nothing made sense. The Gary Andy ultimatum crap, just, I don't know. It's like they decided to make Andy a complete numbskull. I mean, you could argue that Sabrina is more competent than Andy right now, and that's saying a lot because if you're a longtime viewer, you know Sabrina is the airhead of all airheads. But even Andy is making Sabrina look like a genius right now, and that's saying something. But I think that if these writers were allowed, hey, instead of only giving us like 13 days to write these scripts, we need like a month. Can we at least get a month? Because there's 6 of us here. And we're all given different tasks because that's one of the reasons why these episodes just don't seem to flow well, because the tone is off. Let these writers cook. And I'm not talking about throwing something in the microwave. Hey, these scripts need to be done quick, fast, and hurry, so throw that Hot Pocket in the microwave. No. They need time to fix something up in the kitchen. Put it in the oven. Let those scripts cook, even if it takes like 90 minutes or so, aka 4 weeks. That way, they have a solid body of work, because I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it. People are like, Jeremy, you ought to be a writer on the show. And I have no writing experience in terms of the industry, but I could say, and I'm probably going to get flack. This is probably this guy's never going to work at Tyler Perry Studios, but I want to say it anyway. If I were part of the writing team right now, and I have a lot of good ideas. I mean, not to sound arrogant, but a lot of people have said for years, man, the ideas you come up with in your what ifs and whatnot for the haves and the have nots or this show or that show is better than the final product that comes out of Tyler Perry Studios. If I were in a situation where I was in the writer's room and it's like, I have my ideas, but it's like, actually, we can't really make that happen because, it's crunch time. So we really don't have time to, iron out the details. Because look, Jeremy, we see where your final idea leads to and it's great, but we got to find a way to stretch it out and this, that, and the third. And I'm not above compromising, but I don't know if I will be able to work in that fast paced environment. But then again, I do pump out all this content so quickly on my own channel. I mean, we just hit 10,500 uploads. So, your boy works. But all I'm saying is, let's say hypothetically, I was in the writer's room. I have all these ideas I have now, but, I'm not really given time to work thoroughly because guess what? I'm on a team with half a dozen other people and I'm only given a couple of episodes. So it's like, instead of getting, let's say, hey, Jeremy, we need you to do 4 episodes this season. Okay, great. So do you want me to do like the first 4 or, the last 3 plus whatever finale, whether it be in mid-season or season finale? Basically, I'm thinking I'm getting 4 episodes. I must be doing 4 in a row so I can tell a cohesive story. Oh, no, we're giving you episodes 4, episode 17, episode 21, the penultimate episode. That's a good one, Jeremy. We know you'll knock it out of the park. And also, let's backtrack. Let's give you episode 10. Huh? What? Yeah, you got those 4 episodes. But, I mean, how am I supposed to write an episode if I don't even know, what's happening in the previous one? So, I got to, look at all these other... Oh, actually, you don't have time to look at all the other writers' episodes to see how things flow. Basically, you only are allowed to see the episode before the one you're meant to write. What? So, do you see where I'm coming from? Basically, the structure is off. I wouldn't be able to tell the stories I want to tell because if I do, it's going to be a disjointed body of work. I mean, how many times have we heard of musical groups that put out albums usually towards the end of their group's, career as a team because, let's say, someone goes solo or there's infighting and whatnot, or the group just decides to split. I mean, look at the Jacksons' Victory album. I forgot the name of the album, but it's the Beatles album where it's the longest one they ever did, where everybody had a bunch of songs on there. So it just felt like a jumbled mess with some good stuff in there. But overall, it's you could tell, as opposed to working as a team, everybody wanted to be a writer. Everyone wanted to be a producer. So as a result, the end result came out like a hot mess. Yeah, it might have done numbers on the charts, but in terms of standing the test of time like the other bodies of work, not necessarily so. And I feel like the same thing could be said about Tyler Perry Studios right now, where what worked for Tyler doesn't necessarily work for other people. And I'm talking about the people creating this stuff, not the actors, not the people, behind the camera, but I mean in terms of what is making this show flop so hard. Because what's crazy is you look at a show like Bruh, and Dang, it feels like the show has gone off a long time ago, but it's only been a couple months. Wasn't season 4 like 10 episodes, right? I think it was like 10 episodes. Yet that show did phenomenal. These new writers came in, they knocked it out of the ballpark. But then you also have to look at the fact that it only got 10 episodes, not 22. And the show is only 20 minutes, not 42 minutes. So basically, I could see why that show was put together and created in like a week. I forgot the exact filming schedule, but I think they filmed that in like a week, and it makes sense. Zatima also, I mean, I get how they were able to create the show as quickly as they did because, by DeVal, I remember when season 1, before it came out, DeVal mentioned how he had, like Nate, Tony. Basically, he and Crystal worked with the actors, and they made sure that this show was going to be a hit. Like they, took the time to go over the scripts, to go over the ad libs if they wanted to. Basically, take the scripts they were given and enhance them. That's why that first season is just solid gold to me. Yeah, it had some bits where I didn't agree with certain character moments, but overall, season 1 was solid because you could tell it was time, attention, and quality put into that product. But Sistas now, I don't know what to say. And honestly, I didn't expect this video to go as long as I did. Believe it or not, this video was going to be a completely different subject, talking about how the sisters are falling apart. Not the show, but the characters. Like, the sister circle plus Fatima's like, what's going on? It's almost like all of them are about to lose everything, either due to self-sabotage, bad choices they've made, and how is that going to unfold? Because it really is difficult to find out, what's the theme of this season. I mean, for it to just be so far related to the Gary stabbing, I feel like that's a flimsy foundation because, let's be honest here, who the F cares? But I don't know. So, yeah, that's basically how I feel about the series. I really wish that it was just given a little more time to be put together in order to make a product that fans are proud of. Because does it really matter if you have the number 1 spot if people are, talking about how it isn't good? I mean, let's be real. Look at how long The Simpsons has been on the air, or Family Guy, or SpongeBob. But I don't know. Maybe it's an echo chamber at this point. I don't know. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. But I feel for these writers. I feel for them because I don't fully blame them. Because since I've taken time to truly think about how they have been given, kind of like a timetable that isn't familiar to them. It's like, imagine you work at a company and your boss, new management is in charge. Like, hey, Tim, the job you've been doing for like 10 years now, you're pretty good at it, you're an expert. Yeah, we need you to actually change the way you do things. Instead of taking, like, I don't know, let's say you're in a furniture store. I'm just making stuff up, folks. Let's say, you work in a furniture, store, factory or whatever, putting together, products that go out to people, whether it be couches, chairs, beds, whatever the case may be, porches. Yeah, instead of taking, 10 days to create something, we need you to do it in 3. Yeah, because we're actually changing management around here. We're cutting costs, and we want to make sure, we put stuff out faster because competition is stiff right now. And then guess what? If you cut down the time that a person is used to in terms of creating something by a drastic amount, the fine quality product that people used to praise now is going to be the subject of ridicule. So what if you're like the fastest producing furniture company in the world, if everybody is getting their product and they're complaining about it? It's like, wait, how come this chair got the legs upside down? Or why is this couch lopsided? Or wait a minute, this bed, like, why is it a queen and I asked for a twin in my order? You see what I'm saying here? Faster doesn't always mean better. And I don't know what's wrong. Why is it so hard to spend or allow a bit more time for these scripts to be taken care of thoroughly? I feel like if Tyler put these new writers in charge, he ought to trust that giving them more time wouldn't be a bad thing. But hey, what do I know? At the end of the day, if the show is still number 1, if it's still getting high ratings or, well, I don't know, traction online, it doesn't matter. Money's being made, but are the people involved happy? Because as I mentioned before, if I were on this writing team, I don't know if I'd be proud to have my name attached to the show. Because yeah, I have a lot of grand ideas, but if I'm put on a strict timetable and I'm not allowed to, put together the story I want in the way I want, and that doesn't mean again, I'm not against compromise or, okay, there are some guidelines I have to follow, like I can't kill off Gary or I can't do this, whatever. But what I'm saying is, I don't know if I would be proud to say, hey, Sistas, JeremyCarden wrote that episode, because for all the years I've been talking since episode 1, if I put out a product that I felt ashamed of because I know it's going to be ripped apart because I don't believe in what I'm putting out there, I wouldn't want to do it. So that's how I feel. So yeah, like I said, this video is my way of saying, like, I understand the writers a bit better now, because I don't completely blame them. It's just that the timetable they've been given isn't fair, because the way they're used to working on different production studios and whatnot, or different shows and movies, that's one thing. But when you look at how they had to change the way they work on the Tyler Perry way of doing things, the product isn't going to be as good quality. It's just like the same thing with the actors, in terms of a number of times, certain actors from shows get dragged because, oh man, it's like their performance is stiff and whatnot. But then when I see them in other projects, I think one of the biggest, examples being Barry from The Oval. When Vaughn was in The Oval, it's just like, man, I need to find my daughter. It's like, bro, it's all stiff. But I mean, season 1 was his worst, but he got kind of better over time. But then when I saw him on The Game reboot on Paramount Plus, I'm like, yo, this dude can act. But it just comes down to the fact that the scripts weren't strong enough, and everything is done in one take. So the actors aren't always allowed to give their best performance. So when it comes to the writers, I feel like it's the same thing. It's just that they're only given so many days out of, a couple of weeks to do the scripts. And then they put it, and then they just ship it off, and, they start filming, and what can you do? So, yeah. All right, well, hey, that's all I got. I'm sorry if I wasted your time, but I do hope you listened all the way through. If you did, kudos. Please thumbs up the video, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.